What is up, everybody? Thank you guys for joining us as usual. Remember, without you, there is no us. What a beautiful Tuesday, getting ready for everybody to eat a bunch of turkey and take a bunch of naps here in a couple of days. But don't miss all the great sporting events that are going to be going on, and we're going to break down everything. We got some more previews. Going to get to the phone lines at 2:45 p.m. Central, 1-855-236-3228. But before we get into all the news, we got the playoff rankings that are coming out as well. We gave you the perfect top 12 yesterday. If you missed that, make sure you go back and check it out. I hate to start out this beautifully crisp Tuesday with a grievance. But if somebody can explain to me how Dylan Sampson is not a finalist for the Doak Walker Award on the list right now, and that Travis Hunter is, quote unquote, leading the Heisman, close to the top of the Heisman, but is not a Thorpe Award finalist, we really have a voter problem. As I'm fortunate enough to be able to vote in the Broyles Award, the Lombardi Award as well. And I will tell you right now, we have a big-time problem in the college football sphere of not having the right people in the right place to vote. And why don't we make it public? This isn't some national security secret. We're not asking to give away the list of all the spies we have in the Southern Hemisphere. Why can't we make it public so we can avoid stuff like this? Even the preseason rankings of conferences and teams, I'd be fine with making public. I'm not afraid to make my vote public. You want to know why? Because it's grounded in some sort of rationale or logic. That absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah, it's disappointing for sure. Dylan Sampson, 1,300 rushing yards this year, 22 touchdowns in the SEC. For Tennessee. So I don't really understand that. But look, that's why you don't play the game for individual awards, right? If you're playing the game for individual accolades, you will always be left disappointed by someone else's subjectivity and decision-making.
Well, they say sunlight's the best disinfectant. I say put sunlight all over it. You stand by. If you're going to vote, in some sort of way, in some sort of form or fashion, I think we had 2 people pick Vanderbilt to win the SEC before the season, which I will give them a little bit of credit. Doesn't look as nuts now, but it's still nuts. It just blows my mind. I know there's a bunch of Tennessee fans and Colorado fans that are just incredibly confused. And if you follow college football, you're probably incredibly confused in general. Blaine, what is the poll for today?
Oh, the poll is a good one. What is the best rivalry in college football? Ohio State versus Michigan, Auburn versus Alabama, and Danny Kanell versus the SEC.
I know which one I would pick. As he mentioned, rivalry week is upon us. We're going to preview Alabama versus Auburn, Ohio State versus Michigan, USC, Notre Dame, and more. North Carolina decides to part ways with Mack Brown, who could replace him. And college basketball is already off to an incredibly hot start. Yesterday was bananas. I'm Jake Crain, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Crain & Company. Strap up, strap in. Let's get it done, people. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. We all know that. And it's never been more true than the DeBoer and Freeze game, part 1. Auburn and Alabama find themselves in much different places than they were at this time last week. Alabama looked like they were rolling their way into the playoff, and Auburn still hadn't figured out a way to win a big game. Well, fast forward to today, and Alabama fans are asking more questions about the DeBoer hire, and Auburn finally got off the schneid. It took a couple overtimes, but they did it against Texas A&M. An Auburn win in the Iron Bowl would only cause more disarray around Alabama's new head man, and an Alabama win would definitely lessen the blow of the loss at Oklahoma and the ever-evaporating playoff hopes. Now, we know the stakes are always high in this game, but this year it seems a little bit heavier as far as the future goes. This is the greatest rivalry in sports, and I don't care what anyone else, including David Cohn, says. It's one thing to get in a fight with your neighbor. You go into your house, he goes into his. It's another thing to get in a fight with a family member that shares the same roof as you do. There is nowhere to hide. The truth is, Alabama fans think Auburn fans don't deserve to walk on the same side of the street as they do, and that they're really second-class citizens. Auburn fans view Alabama fans as the corporate class who only love Alabama football, not the actual university. And while there is plenty of hate to go around, there is also respect amongst the players. You don't see fights in this game, regardless of the trash talk leading up to it. Most of these guys grew up playing against each other. But sometimes in life, you got to choose a side. Now, I expect this game to be nothing less than a physical fist fight, and whichever coach can make chapter 1 of his new head coaching matchup a successful one, well, they'll find themselves in a pretty good pole position heading into 2025, regardless of if they make the playoffs or not. David Cohn, sure he agrees 100% with everything I just said. Former Michigan quarterback, my brother. Former Western State Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crain. Coney, we always go back and forth and have fun with the rivalry game stuff. We do it every year. But when you look at the Iron Bowl, and you look at, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the game and keys and what needs to happen. But the future, there's so much more at stake, it seems like, kind of with the uncertainty now surrounding DeBoer a little bit. Not that he's going to get fired or anything like that, but Alabama fans are used to a certain standard, and that hasn't been met up to this point. You lose this one it's one thing to get, a paper cut. It's another thing to get hit with a samurai sword. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of questions. You're married to an Alabama girl. I'm married to an Alabama girl. We know how that goes. What do you think this means for Alabama 1 going forward if they were to lose, or if Auburn were to lose? Like, kind of how do you see this playing out as far as perception, because we know that's reality?
Yeah, 2 new coaches trying to set stability and get their feet underneath them. I don't think things will be pretty for Kalen DeBoer if they go 8-4, and along the way you've missed the SEC championship game and the college football playoff when it's tripled in size. But for last weekend, for most of the season, I don't think Auburn's record has been indicative of the football playing on the field for most of the season. Unfortunately, at the end of games in some very critical moments, that has cost them, and that means the losses have added up. So I, like many, weren't surprised to see Auburn be able to beat a Texas A&M team when they have the home advantage of Jordan Hare. You add on top of that, not just the confidence they're going to be coming into the Iron Bowl with, but they're 5-6. They're trying to get bowl eligible so that they don't have to sit at home for the next 6 weeks over Christmas break while everyone else is playing football. You add on top of that, 4th and 31 last year, one of the most disastrous losses in program history. And then you add on top of that, not just Alabama losing last week, but not scoring a touchdown against a 500 team that knocked them out of SEC championship contention and possibly college football playoff contention. I just wonder how much of that recipe will factor into the game this Saturday. And I wonder how much of that can be offset because the game's in Bryant-Denny.
I want to give you I want a yes or no answer on this. If Kalen DeBoer loses to Auburn on Saturday, is he on the hot seat going into next year?
Well, hot seat, what do you mean by hot seat?
If they replicate, that's a good question. If they replicate exactly what happened this year and they lose at Auburn again the next year, do you think there's a chance he could be fired?
Well, I'll just say that I think he was on the hot seat with some fans if he went undefeated this year.
That's a true statement.
And that, you talk about standard. That guy set the standard, right, for the entire sport. So for guys like Roll Tide Willie, he's on the hot seat no matter what he does. For other people, more rational fans, and look, the fans don't make the decisions. I think that Greg Byrne is going to take into account all the information. I'd love to hear an Alabama fan call in today and tell me that 8-4 and losing to Auburn is okay in year 1 at Alabama. Yeah, I don't see it.
No, I'm with you 100%. Blaine, on the Auburn side of it, I think one of the reasons, I was talking to our friend Zach Blackerby at Locked On about this morning. One of the reasons that A&M win was so big for Auburn is at least you have one in your pocket, right? Because if you lose that one, you lose against Alabama. In reality, you finished 4-8 without a decent win to your name. But when you look at this, what Hugh Freeze is bringing into Tuscaloosa, we've heard the trash talk. Say what you want about it. It helps with preparation. During the game, nobody's running around thinking about trash talk. Where it helps is preparation. But what does this game in terms of Hugh Freeze's future mean to you?
I don't care who the coach is. When it comes to the Iron Bowl, you need to win it. You need to win it, especially on the Auburn side of things. And I think Hugh Freeze, even if he loses this game, if it's close, he'll be okay because of what he's building around him. Yeah. I think the recruiting class is saying enough for itself. And I think the talent that is Auburn right now, it's young talent. It's something that you can build on. And I've said this throughout the year, and there's a reason why Auburn's record is this, is because inconsistent quarterback play. The biggest knock on Hugh Freeze has been you did not go get a quarterback out of the portal.
And one game doesn't make up for that, in my opinion. No, Texas A&M game. And we gave Peyton Thorne his flowers. I was happy he did well. Congrats to him. But one game does not erase. Now, if there was ever a game that could erase a lot of bad blood before this or inconsistency, it'd be this one. But it's a tall task for Auburn to go into Tuscaloosa.
And I said this on yesterday's show. Auburn's in a great position right now. You're in the position just to see the world burn. You could beat Alabama, make them with 4 losses, and now that Kalen DeBoer seat turns all the way up. I don't care. The Alabama fans I've talked to, they hate what's going on right now in Alabama. Everything, the physicality seems to almost be lost at Alabama. Things are going on in the locker room that are lax that you're not used to seeing with Nick Saban there. And if you're Kalen DeBoer and you lose this football game, you're 8-4. Now the struggle becomes this. Can you keep your best players? Can you keep your best players? Because I promise you, a weak Alabama is phenomenal for everybody else in the nation because Alabama has talent. They'll forever have talent. They can pick and pluck guys away from that because you're not holding up to the standard of what Alabama is. So if Alabama loses this game, they're in treacherous water.
Well, it's a perception thing too, and I agree with some things that go on in the Feinbaum show. Some things I disagree with. That's why it works and it's been so successful. And I actually like Paul. I think some people think that I don't like him. I do like him, but we got to be realistic here. The question was when Kalen DeBoer came into Alabama, is this thing going to maintain at the level that it was, which is almost impossible, and I thought was unrealistic, or if there is a drop, how far is the drop? So that question up to this point hasn't been answered and wasn't going to be answered until we got through the season and the postseason playoff and all that stuff. But getting off on the right foot was paramount for Kalen DeBoer. And if he beats Auburn and they go 9-3, hey, you didn't make the SEC championship game. You might not make the college football playoff. We'll see. But you beat Auburn. You beat Georgia. You did some good things there. This game is just so heavy to me, just for the perception of that changing of the guard and what that means. Because the Alabama fans that I know remember the Shula era. They don't want to go back. You gave them the filet mignon. They don't want to go back to eating bologna. They don't want to go. They want the tomahawk steak. They don't want Spam and eggs, which I actually like, by the way. But you see what I'm saying? I mean, you get it as much as anybody.
Well, I mean, look, a rivalry of this magnitude, a win in that game can endear you to fans in such a way that it buys you equity. So that point stands alone. It'll always be the case between Auburn and Alabama. But this year specifically, let's just look at the numbers because despite the fact it's a big rivalry, some people may be saying, well, if Auburn loses and goes 5-7, it's already a disappointing year because 7-5 was supposed to be the floor. But let's just look at it here. If you win this one, you're 6-6. Maybe you go play in the what? Meineke Car Care Bowl or something.
Maybe you get a win.
7-6 and 5-7 are very different when you're trying to keep players out of the transfer portal and you're trying to close the deal here as signing day approaches. But on the other side, look at the numbers. You're talking about 8-4. You're definitely out of the college football playoff then, and maybe Alabama already is. We'll see what the committee says in the next couple of weeks. But 8-4, and then you go play in a bowl game or something. You could win or lose depending on if your players are getting ready for the NFL draft. But if you win this one, you stay 9-3. You go win a bowl game, you've hit the 10-win mark. And so while it has been a disappointment, at least Alabama fans could say, well, the guy did come in and at least honor that 10-win mark that Nick Saban hit every year except for his first one. That's why I think this game is so important on top of the rivalry stakes.
And I want to go ahead and get into the gameplay. We're going to get to the chat. Remember, if you donate and it's on topic at the time, it will get read. We appreciate it. If not, it'll get read at the end, speaking about the donations. As far as the nuts and bolts and what has to happen in this game, I talked about the trash talk leading up to it. Again, after having been in it, and you guys know this as well, the trash talk is bulletin board material is preparation material. There was never a time when the ball was snapped when I was like, oh, God, this guy said this. I got to hit him harder. That's not how it works. Everything's moving so fast. You know this. There was never a time at Michigan where you got to snap and said, oh, man, well, this guy said this, so I'm going to throw it at him. It's to prepare yourself because you play how you prepare most times. A couple keys I have, starting on the Auburn side. This isn't a complicated formula. This isn't the end of Interstellar or me trying to figure out what reality they're in Inception. I thought Oklahoma did a tremendous job, not only having a plan going in, but executing that plan. You have to make Jalen Milroe beat you from the pocket. You have to make him beat you from the pocket. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to make a couple plays when it breaks down, or he's not going to hit you on a power read or a Q power or the zone read every once in a while. But Oklahoma, and I saw Nick Sheridan talking about this in the press conference as well, they had him going horizontally. He wasn't able to get vertical a lot. So Jalen Milroe can beat you from the pocket. If you don't believe me, go look at the first half of the Georgia game. But if you're playing the numbers, the numbers say the best chance you have is to make him beat you from in between the tackles, right? It's easier said than done. But if you're Auburn, the question becomes, can you do that without having to bring extra guys in the box and leave yourself exposed to Ryan Williams or Jeremy Bernard or some of the guys that Alabama has on the outside that can really hurt you, not just, vertically and deep, but in the intermediate, now screen game, bubble screen game, throwing the hot and stuff like that. If Auburn is able to get Alabama in third and passings, the third and sixes, the third and sevens, and they are smart about the way they rush, and to me, you play zone coverage against Alabama. You've talked about that till the cows have come home. Jalen Monroe struggles more with zone coverage than he does with man. And in zone coverage, you're kind of able to rally to the ball carrier a little bit more, especially when it's the quarterback, right? Because again, if I'm in man and I'm a corner, man eyes and zone eyes are different. Zone eyes, if I'm a corner, we're running quarters, I'm playing Q to 2, right? I may be on the outside wide receiver, but I'm looking at the quarterback to number 2 in case we're in cut coverage or anything like that. And eventually, right, when I clear everything, my eyes will turn back as I get my drop in depth, unless I'm in cover 2, to that receiver. Well, in man eyes, there is no looking in. Now, we used to trick quarterbacks. We used to try and trick them with leverage, and we used to try and trick them with eyes. But when that ball is snapped, my eyes are on that man. So if he runs me off and clears me out, not only am I exposed underneath, but if Jalen Monroe takes off, he can really hurt you. So I expect Auburn to try early to play an even box. Bama's going to go with their 11 personnel and things like that. But zone coverage, to me, is what you got to do. On the Auburn side, well, just from a defensive standpoint, I'm sure you probably agree with me.
All of that makes sense with Auburn on defense. I was thinking about Auburn on offense. This is an Alabama team that has given up so many rushing yards this year. That's really their Achilles heel. Coming off of a 257 rushing yard performance against Oklahoma, Auburn has got to figure out a way to run the football effectively, and that's already what Hugh Freeze really wants to do, and he finds unique ways to do it. I keep thinking about the Georgia game last year when he found unique ways to get Peyton Thorne downhill. Jarquez Hunter, one of the better running backs in the league. You got to be able to find a way to stay on schedule against this Alabama defense that's already proven that we will give chunk plays consistently on the ground. I think that side of the football could be the Auburn's defense best friend in this game.
Well, and to me, and this is going to be hounded all week, Kane Womack, the DC at Alabama, is going to be talking about stopping the run. Not only Jarquez Hunter, who's one of the leading rushers in the SEC, and Auburn's got a couple other good backs that can hurt you, but also Peyton Thorne running the ball as well. Because if you're Auburn, look, you've got this the Bourbon Bowl.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to make a bowl, trying to make the Bourbon Bowl, actually. So you're going to run Peyton Thorne as much as humanly possible. I'm just wondering, Blaine, if you're Auburn, how much eye candy are you going to give Alabama this week from a pre-snap motion, right, from formation into the boundary, from mixing up your personnel groupings, kind of like how Texas A&M did against Auburn, to try and find some sort of formation or leverage advantage when you know that Alabama is going to try and stop the run. And then when you get your opportunities, right, spitting the ball out in the quick game. Maybe you're not able to run the ball with that much success on the road against Alabama, so you're trying to reinforce it with a short passing game that are easy throws for Peyton Thorne early, and that will maybe even out Alabama from an alignment standpoint defensively to open up that run. Are you pitching backwards a little bit early here, or what are you doing?
Man, I wouldn't say I'm pitching backwards, but when you talk about eye candy, it'd be like Willy Wonka's factory in there. I'm throwing everything I have at this Alabama team.
Tastes like schnozberries?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm throwing everything I have in the bank at this Alabama football team because, look, Hugh Freeze, you win this game. A lot's forgotten. And you have to give it the ball to your best players. Yeah. Jarquez Hunter. You have to let Jarquez Hunter eat. Cam Coleman. You have to let Cam Coleman eat. Lambert Smith. You have to put the ball in your best players in the most key positions. And I think Hugh, by this point, has to realize that. And at the end of the day, if I'm Hugh Freeze, I'm running the ball until you stop me. And Dave, you brought up a great point in Peyton Thorne in that Georgia game. It wasn't just Peyton Thorne creating on pass plays. It was designed quarterback runs. Peyton Thorne is not the fastest guy in the world, but he has enough speed, in my opinion, where you have to respect it on that defense. And I thought Oklahoma did a great job last week with the orbit motions and just opening up opportunities to make it easier.
They did what Vanderbilt did.
If you watch those runs, half of those big plays, that guy's not getting touched until he's 8 or 9 yards down.
But let's get into the mind of the coaches, though. If you know that, and I know that, and David knows that, and our audience knows that, Bama knows that. So they are going to be going over corrections and telling their defensive guys, we are going to get the same thing. Why would they not do it? So if you're Auburn, you have to counter that somehow, right? How do you counter that? Maybe it's going in those same formations like we saw that diamond set that Vanderbilt run and running different things out of it maybe from the passing game that we saw Vanderbilt do a little bit on 3rd down and 5 and 3rd down and 8 to be able to get to those stick routes. That's what I'm interested in. And again, if I'm Auburn, I'm taking shots. I'm taking a couple shots early at a heavy personnel. If you're going to play man, if we're going to get skinny, right? And you're going to play cover 1 and you're going to have that one guy in the sky, and I may go 12 personnel. I may go 21 personnel, where I end up with just 2 wide receivers on the outside, one at Z, one at X, Cam Coleman and KLS, and running it deep. But one of the biggest advantages, and you won't hear people talk about this week, but if you're an Auburn fan, one of the biggest disadvantages you have going into this game is special teams. I love what the ninth string kicker did, the one who, was doing Sudokus in class at Birmingham Southern, who they got out after the disaster that has been the Auburn's field goal unit this year. I don't expect him to be able to go into Tuscaloosa and be perfect. In this game, he might have to be perfect. But what should give you even more worry is Oscar Chapman had a horrible game last weekend against Texas A&M. And if you're going to have any chance to win this game if you're Auburn, it is field position. If I am Bama, I am licking my chops in the return game. Mm-hmm. I am licking my chops when I look at who I have, the guy who won the Groves Award last year at kicker, who came over from Miami, Ohio, versus what Auburn has. So that's one area where you're not going to hear a lot of people talk about it. It's going to be about Peyton Thorne and Jalen Moreau and this or that. But this game could come down to the punter, and it could come down to the field goal kicker, which means it's going to come down to the long snapper and the holder as well. That's a big deal.
Well, I'm fine with Auburn taking the shots. They hit some big ones against Texas A&M, which we're going to break down later in the show. And Alabama gave up plenty in the second half against Georgia. On the pitching backwards point, though, throwing on downs that are typical running downs, be careful with it early, because if you put it in Peyton Thorne's hands early on 1st and 10 and you haven't even given yourself a chance to see if the run game's working and you get a tipped pick 6 or something, then you find yourself in a deficit, which Auburn's not good at coming back. You'll be kicking yourself for not seeing if you could even establish the run early, which I don't think that's going to happen. That's a worst case scenario. They're going to need all sorts of I don't want to say tricks, but they're going to need all sorts of strategies to be able to beat Alabama on the road. And I think they'll come in with plenty of those strategies.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the chat and let's move.
All right, chat. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. We're going to start the day off with a $3 donation from AU Timmy. What's up, man? He says, Jake, if I'm Auburn's defense, how am I game planning against Jalen Milroe?
Well, I always... And when I look at this matchup, and that's what it comes down to, it's matchups, it's personnel, right? How do I feel about my front seven versus Alabama's offensive line and whatever sort of nub tight end they have, or, however you want to call it or frame it? I want to go out and see if I can just stop it playing even, because I don't want to give Alabama and Jalen Milroe the confidence early throwing the ball, because I do think Jalen Milroe is a rhythm shooter as a quarterback. A lot of quarterbacks are. Some guys shoot good all the time and they can come back from not throwing the ball well. I think Jalen Milroe has to get off to a good start from a confidence standpoint too. I know he's played in a lot of big games, done a lot of really good things, made a bunch of big plays, but he's still a human being. And confidence and momentum is a real thing. So if I'm Auburn's defense, if I'm DJ Durkin, if I'm Charles Kelly, I'm going to see if I can line up in my overfront. I may go my 3 down with the 4th walk-in. I'm not going to try and get crazy and run stunt early and bring a bunch of exotic pressures on run downs. We can talk about third and passing, trying to get weird sometimes with the way Alabama struggled to pick up with some of these pass protections. But I want to see if we can go toe-to-toe, just keeping it even, so I can give some help over the top against Ryan Williams. So maybe my corners can be a little bit more aggressive jumping things. Maybe I feel a little bit better in cover 2 if I realize that Jalen Milroe is trying to get a bunch of short throws early that we can play trap coverage to, especially to the boundary. So to me, kind of like David was talking about, seeing if you can run the ball early. From the defensive side, I'm going to see if I can play my base stuff and beat you and get you into passing downs, and then I'll build from there. If I can't, then I'll pull the parachute, and we'll realize we have to Harry Potter our way through this thing. But if not, that's going to give me more confidence, and then I start asking myself, here's what I don't want to have happen if I'm an Auburn fan. Don't rush 3 this game. Please don't do it. DJ, listen, I'm begging you, dog. You're bad at it. You're really bad at it. All right, and this Auburn, you need your pass rushers on the field, and you got to pass rush this guy smart. You can't run past him. But Auburn cannot rush 3 in this game and get away with it. Don't overthink yourself, because I know what you're going to think. Oh man, if we rush 3 and we play zone coverage behind it, not only is Jalen Milroe going to be confused, we're going to have an extra guy to defend in space. Well, the more time you give this guy to run around, and the more time you got to cover some of these witches that Bama has, and you've already shown you're bad at it, the more trouble you're going to be in.
If you do it, you got to do it like Georgia did in the SEC championship.
The 3-2 spy.
Rush 3, double spy, but it's really layered pressure.
You may have just nailed it.
You know what I mean?
You may have.
It looks like it's Rush 3.
And you called for that during the live stream of the Georgia-Alabama game, and they did it.
All right, let's go to JR. He says, Kalen DeBoer already has 3 losses he can't afford, and if he loses the Iron Bowl at home, I don't know where you go from here as an Alabama fan.
Well, the question is not, would they fire him this year? They're not firing him this year. So if you're an Alabama fan that thinks that, you might as well wish in one hand and do something else in the other and see which one fills up faster. The question becomes, what is the level of pressure that he's going to face the next year when, if it goes bad, you could see Alabama decide to hit the eject button with Kalen DeBoer and move on, I think. That's the biggest question. But I tell you what's not a question. If you want delicious coffee, Black Rifle Coffee is the way to go. They got a ton of different roasts, dark roast, light roast, everything in between. They got some espresso. David's always talking about it. The Electric Eagle. Get electrified. That's not written on the sheet. I just made that up. That's improv. Shout out my boy Ryan Stiles. They have a coffee quiz on their website that can match you with the perfect blend of coffee for you. That's right. It's that type of lifestyle. And a portion of every purchase you make with Black Rifle Coffee goes towards supporting veteran and first responder causes. And that's probably the most important thing that I'm going to go through in this ad read. It's not just how delicious the coffee is, not just the variety of blends and roasts and all the stuff in between. It's that they are giving back to the people that protect us, the most underrated team in America, and those are our veterans and our first responders. So if you want to help out that cause, if you want some great coffee, you need to head over to blackriflecoffee.com right now. Use code DailyWire, all one word, for 20% off of America's coffee. That is blackriflecoffee.com. Use code DailyWire, and remember, every portion of the purchase that you make, or a portion of the purchases you make, go to help out these fantastic causes. It goes a long way toward giving back to those who serve our nation and help us be able to do this. All right, David, let's move on to a game you care about a lot.
Yeah, well, I'm just glad that we were able to get the appetizer sort of opening act rivalry out of the way. Now we can get to the entree rivalry.
That's fine. I respect.
Feel better.
I respect that rivalry.
I will have I have a little message for Michigan football, but I'll get to it at the end of this segment. Minus 21, not too good right there for Michigan. It opened at minus 23.5. Over under 42.5. Obviously, Michigan 6-5, but Buckeyes really right there, already going to play in the conference championship game. Do they have a shot?
David, if Michigan if Ohio State had beaten Michigan the last 2 years and, had done stuff in the playoffs and you didn't have what happened, I would give Michigan a little bit more of a chance. Not a 50-50 chance, but maybe a 30% chance. All right, and I'm gonna let you gas I'm gonna let you get yours. All right, I don't want to spend too much. I'm gonna yield my time. What do they say in Crain? I'm gonna yield my time here in a second. I think Ryan Day is just going to try and make a statement.
It's purse.
It's super. It's always personal in this game. And when you go to Ohio State, you get hired at Ohio State to beat Michigan, just like, vice versa. I'm just sitting here looking schematically, and I know Michigan turned off the lights and put on the masks against Northwestern last week. I just don't see how. And I know, is Will Johnson?
Will Johnson's not playing. He's done.
You've got guys that aren't playing this game. We know Ohio State's roster is better than Michigan's overall anyway, even I think if Will Johnson is playing. But defense aside, because I've seen Ohio State's offensive line struggle, I think y'all's defense could keep you in this game for 2.5 quarters. I just don't see how you guys are going to score in this, regardless of what type of Dr. Emporiums, whatever that thing is, whatever type of Dr. Seuss stuff gets drawn up, man, I just don't see a way in which Michigan can score more than 13 points in this game, man. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just, from what I've seen, I don't think you can throw it consistently against this Ohio State defense. Maybe the only saving grace is if Jim Knowles regresses back to what he did a couple years ago and says, you know what? Michigan can't throw it. So we're just going to play zero coverage behind you and load up the box and make you throw it. Well, when you play zero coverage, that means you got no help. There is no life alert. Oh, I've fallen and I can't get up. Thanks, free safety. It is one false step, one bad moment of eye discipline, right? One slip, one bad hand placement. It's not a first down, it's a touchdown. I don't see him doing that, though, David. I don't see him making that mistake twice.
Blaine, is Michigan in for a dog walking?
Look, I love you.
Yeah,
right.
That's not a good start.
But
no, it's not. I can go ahead and tell you how this moves.
It's going to be belt to ass for 4 quarters. It is. And look, Michigan, y'all can put this on whatever video you want to. Y'all going to get drugged because I think, like, for Ryan Day, this one, he might try to score 1,000 on y'all. He really might.
Can you blame him?
I mean, not really. But David, at the end of the day, I mean, y'all won the Natty last year.
Yeah.
You always have something to fall back on.
And stop with that poison.
It's not this isn't a personal attack to you. I just hope you know that. But like this is just a revenge game. All right. And there's no way I can look at this game and be like, well, Michigan, you got something here. You can do something here. Well, you know,
that's my thing. I'm just not seeing.
You know, it's going to be a beatdown for 4 quarters.
Yeah. Call me Stevie Wonder.
But I love you.
All right. Well, let me do my best here.
Go ahead, David. Good luck.
My message to Michigan football is simple this week. For the first time in a long time, most of you in that locker room don't know what it's like to lose to the Buckeyes. And I'm telling you right now, brother, you don't want to know. That's a pain that stays with you for life. I don't care how many times you beat them, lose once, and that's what you will remember. Now, the last 3 iterations of this game were what the rivalry should be. Undefeated matchups, top 5, Big Ten on the line, college football playoff on the line. These aren't those stakes. So what? You're the defending national champions. That's your past. You signed the number 1 player in the country. That's your future. But what about right now? You have a chance to get on that bus, drive to your biggest rival's house, who already wants to hang 100 on you, who already came back this season just to beat you. You have a chance to go down there and do the impossible. I just saw Auburn do it against Texas A&M. I saw Florida do it against Ole Miss. Kansas can do it against Colorado. Why not you? Saturday, strap up the chin strap and shock the world. You think that'll do something?
I mean, I think you're doing all you can.
I'm doing all I can.
I appreciate it. Tell me, David, you're a brilliant football mind. Tell me how. Is it, and I hate to put it like this, is it Ohio State going to have to lose it? Like, is that what it's going to have to be? Is Will Howard just going to have to be Drew Barrymore from 51st Dates and just forget?
Well, what would be them losing it? Our
Turnovers,
defensive front 7 well, that's what I mean. Like, if our defensive front 7, which is the strength of the defense, gets a strip sack fumble and goes up, or you get a pick 6, even though Will Johnson's not playing because Will Howard has been known to do a couple of those things, is that them losing it, or is that the strength of our team showing up and making them flustered for a little bit? But on the offensive side, I mean, Davis Warren's going to have to piece together the best game he's played, right? Like, I've seen amazing drives. I've seen singular amazing throws. Can you replicate that for the entire game? Because what that'll do is open up your strength on offense. Maybe Donovan Edwards says, I got one more in me. Ready? You want to see an 80-yard touchdown run? I got another one in me. I can go for 250 this game, 175 this game, combined with what Kalel Mullings can do. I mean, that to me would be the only shot. But like you said, you're going to the horseshoe to play. It's so personal for Ryan Day that he's trying to put up 70 points on you. And, you know, but this is the thing about this game, just like the Iron Bowl, what we just talked about. Like, some installments of this game are the most interesting when one team has a 500 record and they're doing nothing more than playing to ruin the other season.
And I want to get to the chat. I know we got to move, but do you take a page? I think you have to. I frame this as a question, but I don't think it's a question. You take a page out of the playbook of the service academies, out of what Vanderbilt did against Alabama, and say, you know what, the new clock rules, that clock will run after a first down unless it's under 2 minutes going to halftime or the last 2 minutes of the game. Do you know, in the old days in college basketball for the shot clock, if you were playing a team that's better than you, you would just try and dribble around the whole game, right? You would just try and dribble around and keep it as low scoring as possible. If you're Michigan, do you just slow this thing down to a churn? Because it does multiple things. One, it shortens the game and it limits the possessions. Now, you have to be able to move the ball to do this. Like, you can't go 3 and out and do this.
Yeah.
But the longer, if you have success doing that, that's what I thought, you know, one of the most beautiful parts about Indiana's first drive was that it wasn't quick strike, is that it was slow and methodical. And the shorter this game gets, and if it stays relatively close, the pressure builds only on one side, and that's Ohio State. So if you're able to control the clock and the tempo and slow it down, it's kind of like stopping a transition basketball team and making them run sets offensively and run their offense. Maybe that could somewhat even the odds for you. That, to me, that's got to be the plan. That's got to be the plan.
That offensive strategy is the best tactic going into this game. The problem is, let's say you find yourself with a couple early 3-and-outs because of that, and then you're down 17-0, right? Like Colston Loveland, that's your best weapon on offense. You got to figure out opportune times to get him the football. And I'll tell you one thing I don't want to see in this game. Because the Buckeyes have already cemented that they're playing in Indianapolis in the Big Ten championship game, I don't want to see a situation where, you know, they don't throw all their play calls at this game, or they sit some starters in this game, which I don't think is going to happen.
There's no way.
Because like you said, one, biggest rivalry in the sport, and they've lost the last 3. They're taking this seriously. While that would give Michigan a greater chance to win, that's bad for college football, and that's another arrow in the sling for people who say the 12-team playoff expansion is bad, because then it's sort of like the NFL. Well, we'll rest all of our players the last week because we've already made the playoffs.
Maybe you just go opposite and go warp speed.
If you're the Buckeyes?
If you're Michigan. Maybe you just go against the grain. Just go super fast.
That's an interesting idea.
Or do you just alternate? Super fast, super slow. Super fast, super
That's
slow.
what I do as a
Never let them know your next move. All right, let's get to the chat.
$3 donation from the Rocky Mountain Man. He said, look, Cone is great. Michigan sucks. Go Buckeyes. Buckeyes by 40 at least.
God, why do I agree with like everything you said there?
Well, at least he doesn't not watch this show because
that is.
Thank you, man.
Let's go to Brad Smith. He said, Michigan better call out sick like they did in 2020. It's going to get ugly in the shoe. Hashtag no hope.
Michigan fans are still mad at me because I said that was the softest thing I've ever seen.
You were right.
I can't believe that. I'm glad that I wasn't doing this professionally when that happened, because I'd never be let back in Ann Arbor. It was unacceptable.
Let's go to Rylan Dale. What's up, Ryan? Says, I'm a UGA fan, and Cone, trust me, after that speech, I'm ready to run through a wall for you, brother. Let's get it going.
I just want to eat. I just want to eat.
Let's go to Fox Squirrel. Good point here. He said, maybe there'll be a blinding snowstorm. What's the weather looking like in this game?
I just pulled it up. Hold on.
Okay. See, this is what I love about our audience. They think about, you can go to your
28 degrees, boys.
28?
28.
Is there a chance of snow? Maybe some sleet?
I see a little cloud icon.
Fire.
I see a cloud icon.
Okay, good.
All right, let's go to the Stoveman 13. He says, can Bryce Underwood come play in this game?
Listen, they're trying to get him on campus.
They wouldn't let us give players a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
They're not going to let us play someone else.
That's why if I'm a Michigan fan, like if this game starts going bad, I'm just going to turn on Bryce Underwood highlights.
Let's go to Mr. Bucky. He says, Cone, how do you approach with all the weapons that Ohio State has on Michigan's defense, especially with your number one corner out? What are you going to do with Jeremiah?
It's so interesting for him to say the Buckeyes on defense, because the last couple of years we've been saying, how in the heck do you play against this Buckeye team with all these weapons on offense, multiple first-rounders? Michigan did a great job of defending them. He's right, though. They have so much talent on defense now, and with Jim Knowles at the helm, it's going to be tough for Michigan.
What about offensively, though, too? Like, if you're the DC, if you're Wink Martindale, sometimes there are no good answers. And I hate to say that.
But it's better than C.J. Stroud, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Marvin Harrison Jr.
That is true.
As great as Jeremiah Smith is, as great as Mbuka is, like what we had to play against the last 3 years, I mean, that's the gauntlet.
That's very true. All right, one more.
Let's go to Fight On That. He says, I'm going to laugh my butt off if Michigan pulls off this upset. I'm going to see Ryan Day stutter for an explanation.
I'm telling you, one of the funniest things we've ever played on that show was last year after Michigan won, the guy who did the Ryan Day musical. Justine, I don't know if y'all could possibly find that while the show's still going on. And again, we call how we see it. Ohio State fans, we love you guys. Michigan fans, we love you guys. Same thing with Auburn, Alabama, everybody. We want everybody to watch the show. That's still, I appreciate good humor. When it's making fun of Auburn, I think it's hilarious, right? I appreciate good humor. That was one of the hardest moments I've ever laughed when we did that last year. All right, phone line's going to open up here in 7 minutes. Remember, hey, I know a lot of y'all are in there. Hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you. Please keep sharing the show. A lot of y'all just found us. Well, welcome home. You'll never go anywhere else. And if you do, the food won't taste as good. But I tell you what is amazing about this place. We build our own stuff as well. We didn't build it personally, but we know the people who did. And with Jeremy's razors, you can get a perfect shave regardless of whatever team you root for in whatever conference. It does not matter. Remember when Christmas was Christmas, right? And razors were just razors, all right? The woke corporations, all that stuff. You want a good shave. That's all you're asking for. All right, there's a lot of Grinches running around out there, tearing down traditions. Well, Jeremy's Razors is here to help you, save you from them. And our Black Friday deals are now live. I promise you, I'm going to get this out. Save 30%. Stocking stuffers under $15. Shave, hair, and body bundles, under $50. Plus, get free shipping on qualifying orders. Let's make Christmas great again. All right, order now at jeremysrazors.com. See the website for details. I'm telling you, I'm literally going to use one tonight, but it's not just razors that they have. And the Precision 5 is literally in the name. It's incredibly precise. All right, if you want to make sure you're scoring points on offense and protecting yourself on defense, Jeremy's Razors. Make sure you go check that out. Take advantage of that Black Friday sale. And again, it's a great product, and it looks pretty cool. All right? I know some of you guys want to be very suave, Rico Suave, whatever. It'll make you feel good about yourself. All right, David, let's move on here. What do we got next?
All right, first one up here. Mack Brown has been fired by North Carolina. National champion at Texas. I didn't realize that he had coached at North Carolina for so long before he took the Texas job that first time.
Yeah, in 1814.
Yeah, 1997. But yes.
Well.
Who's going to be the next coach at North Carolina?
So I always think, and I've put out a couple feelers there. I can't get an answer from people I trust on if Dan Mullen wants to get back in or not. I can't get a straight answer. They'll hint at it one way, hint at it the other. I just think if I was the AD at North Carolina, who would be my first three calls? Well, the first guy I'm going to call is John Sumrall at Tulane. John does an incredible job. He was awesome at Troy. Very well respected. When you look at the way his teams operate, they play really good complementary football. They play pretty much mistake-free. They're disciplined. They play physical. They don't commit a lot of penalties. That would be my first call. It's his time to get a big-time power football job. And make no mistake, North Carolina is a big-time power football job. There's a lot of guys that want that. My second call would be to Dan Mullen if John Sumrall told me no. To see if he'd want back in. The fit just makes sense. Still, when I think about North Carolina, I think about offense. And not because Michael Jordan went there, right? Or, they came back and dropped a 90-piece on Dayton with Cajun fries and a honey biscuit last night. But I think it would be a good fit, and it'd be a good opportunity for him to get back in at a place that's not in the SEC, right? Not knocking the ACC, but I just feel like the fit's good. And then if that doesn't work out, my third call is to Jamie Chadwell at Liberty. That's what I'm going to call it. It's a guy that's familiar with that area from a recruiting-based standpoint. Obviously, he's been at Coastal. He's been at Liberty. It's not like he's, got to rework his high school football coaching network of who he knows and goes and introduce himself to these guys and have to start forming these long relationships. Plus, I like the offense that he runs. He does a lot of things from a motion standpoint, from a formation standpoint. Liberty, I know the schedule isn't great. He's done nothing but continued that winning success there that Hugh Freeze, had helped keep up, and then Hugh goes to Auburn. I think it's Jamie's time to get that next big job. I've heard some people, my buddy Nino Brown said Brennan Marion. I think Brennan Marion is ready for a head coaching job. I don't think he's ready for that head coaching job yet at North Carolina. So those would be my top three. As far as Mack Brown, what a class act.
Yeah.
If you saw the statement that he put out, it just, if you want to mold your character and your morality after a guy in a business that is dirty, that has a decent amount, just like any business, of guys that are really in it for themselves. Mack Brown was never really in it for himself, and I wish he would have gotten to kind of go out the way he wanted to.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's willing to not make he could have made a big stink about it. He could have gone and got upset, and that's not who Mack Brown is. But at the same time, I think it was time. I think it was time for North Carolina to make that change. What do we say on this show? Sometimes, just like they did back in the old days, you got to put the old person on the raft right at the river, and everybody shows up singing the hymns and the songs and telling the stories and the memories, and then you just push them off. It's goodbye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
I was hoping he'd get a chance to go out the way he wanted to as well.
And he's done some really good things at North Carolina.
He was probably given that opportunity and declined. All right, next one up here. I want to talk about the Big 12 tiebreaker rules because right now every other conference is pretty simple. This is getting a little bit crazy in the Big 12 for this weekend. Arizona State, obviously 6-2 in the conference. BYU 6-2 in the conference. Iowa State the same, and Colorado the same. So four-way tie at the top.
Do you have the Ross Dellinger tweet?
Yes, I do. I have Ross Dellinger's tweet right here. So those are the four teams tied atop at 6-2. In a two-team tie scenario, obviously those two teams go to the Big 12 championship game. In a three-team tie scenario, with a Colorado loss, Arizona State plays Iowa State. Okay, with an Arizona State loss, Iowa State plays BYU. With an Iowa State loss, Arizona State plays BYU. If BYU loses, this is what's interesting. This is the way that Colorado would play Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. If BYU loses, Texas Tech defeats West Virginia, Baylor beats Kansas, and Cincinnati beats TCU. Okay? That's how Colorado plays Iowa State. Otherwise, Colorado plays Arizona State with only a BYU loss. And then in a 4-team tie scenario, Arizona State and Iowa State are already slated to go. And for the teams that are currently 5-3 entering this week, they must win and see at least 3 of the 6-2 teams take a loss.
So the only teams that control their own destiny are Iowa State and Arizona State? Is that what you're telling me? If they both win, it's all mute, right? Is that what you're saying?
Feel like Doofy from Scary Movie every time we go over this.
Reporting for duty?
Goodness gracious.
Is that what you're saying? So if Arizona State wins and Iowa State beats Kansas State, it's Arizona State and Iowa State. That's what you're telling me, right? Or am I wrong?
Well, it could be if the other 2 teams win as well, then yes.
Okay.
But if, like I said, if Arizona State lose, so you said
if Arizona State and Iowa State win, Arizona State's playing Arizona, Iowa State's playing Kansas State. If they both win, they both play, right?
If they both win and BYU loses, then it looks like Colorado and Arizona State play.
So nobody really...
Well, hold on. No. Colorado...
This is what I'm talking
BYU
about.
loses and Texas Tech beats West Virginia.
Okay. You know what? I just can't wait for...
Just look at the stars.
Yeah, again, why is Matthew McConaughey in the 3D bookshelf? I don't know. I can't explain it to you. I'll never be able to explain it to you, but I'll tell you how it ends.
Yeah, I have it right in front of me. And
that's what I'm telling you. Like, we could go down this route.
Who's going to play in the Big 12 championship game, though?
Arizona State and Iowa State, David. I don't know. Pick one. Shuffle the deck. Pick a card.
I just do the chat.
All right, last one here. College basketball. You guys got any updates from this crazy week?
Who cares? That's my update. Who cares?
You see,
it's football season.
In March, you're going to be mad you didn't watch these early
games.
I
won't. No, I will not be.
Sometimes I really don't like you.
It's who cares? It's rivalry week. Who cares about basketball? Nobody.
Anyway,
some guy who paints his nails in the NBA is averaging 30 a game. It's cooked.
Hey, hold on. I got a call. It's from Insecurity.
Did Dan Hurley get kicked out of a game last night?
Yes. So let me just let the people know what happened. UConn actually lost a basketball game.
Wow.
Okay. And also South Carolina women's team lost a basketball game the other day. So the parity may not just be for college football. Memphis was beating UConn the whole game. UConn storms back after being down like 9 with 2.5 minutes to go. Ties the game. There's an awful call in overtime. I believe it was overtime. In the last 30 seconds, Dan Hurley, who may be the best college basketball coach going right now, he probably is, one of the last 2 natties, got an awful technical. Can't happen. And they end up, Memphis, ends up winning the game. Credit to Penny Hardaway in Memphis. That was a lot of talking. You thought, man, wow, that's a lot of drama for one night. It was just getting started. Number 4, Auburn plays number 5, Iowa State in the Maui Invitational. By the way, R.I.P. Bill Walton. As much as we used to give him grief about telling me why a pine tree is the way it is, I miss him. I miss his commentary, actually. Auburn storms back down from 18 to beat Iowa State at the buzzer. Basically, Janai Broom tips one back in. And then Dayton was just drilling North Carolina in that same tournament. North Carolina comes all the way back, wins it like 90-88. Just incredible wall-to-wall college basketball. I love all of it. I love this mixture of rivalry week. You got your tournaments all over from the Cayman Islands to Maui, everywhere, and it was fantastic. We got some more tonight. Alabama's playing Houston tonight. Auburn's playing North Carolina tonight. And the reason it's important, Blaine, is because when it comes down to seeding for the NCAA tournament, I don't want to see you over here crying and complaining.
Why does it matter?
That they give Auburn a 3 seed, all right? But these are why these wins are big, because you got 2 top 5 wins. You went on the road and beat Houston. You beat Iowa State. That could be the difference, bud. That could be the difference.
All this to lose to BYU in the second round.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
You know what? God, sometimes.
I'm glad y'all brought up, Alabama and Nate Oates. It's a perfect job for North Carolina, to be honest.
Well, we have some time before Huddle Up. Do you want to preview Notre Dame and Southern Cal?
Yeah, and I want to talk about Syracuse, Miami for a second.
Okay, you want to talk about that one instead?
No, let's go USC, Notre Dame. Okay. Let's kick it over to the man running the chat right there. What do you think? Does Notre Dame drop one this weekend?
No, I don't think so. I think Notre Dame's Dame's hot right now.
They are.
I really do. I think
they're Hansel hot.
I mean, I think they know who they are, and I mean, USC has only been a letdown this year. Does USC have talent? For sure, but I think the way Notre Dame's built, running the ball, stopping the run, aggressive up front in the front seven, I think they're going to dominate this game. I think Notre Dame will cover. I think Riley
like
Leonard,
the 7.5 thing?
Yeah. I think it'll be a 10-plus point game in Notre Dame's favor. I think Riley Leonard is slowly turning into a better and better quarterback each week. I mean, he's just a complete package. He can run the ball. He's great in the play-action game. And the accuracy downfield is one thing I thought he's gotten a lot better this year. So I like Notre Dame.
Can USC stop the run?
Mm-hmm.
It's the only...
A little bit. Even a little bit.
A little bit. Because I like what Maiava's come. I'm trying to say Mavia's come. It's like Diego Pavia's cousin. I like what he's done coming in. I thought he did some good things against UCLA. I don't know if he can do enough against this Notre Dame defense. This is a fantastic rivalry game. I hate that USC's as down as they are because this could be a hell of a matchup. But if Lincoln Riley's going to salvage this year, yeah, you beat UCLA, but that's like beating up the short, fat kid at the playground. It doesn't impress the girls. It makes you look weak when you're the 12-year-old that looks like you're 30. But if Lincoln Riley's able to win this one, I think it could salvage something with this year, with all the crew, with Miller Moss getting benched after what happened at the beginning of the year, beating LSU. You had Branch, you had some of these pieces, you had Marshawn Lloyd, and it kind of fell apart. I think USC's going to hang around in it. I just think Riley Leonard's got too much dog in him, man. I think he's got too much dog in him. I like that Mitchell Evans is back healthy now, a guy that they really need. And say what you want about Notre Dame's schedule. Going into the year, we were giving them kudos on how tough we thought this schedule was going to be and that you can't make fun of Notre Dame this year. It's not their fault. Everybody else sucks. So when I look at this game, I think USC may put up a little bit of a fight early. I just think Notre Dame is it's their gravity right now. Their water hitting the concrete with the crack in it. It may not break in the first quarter. It may not break in the second quarter, but eventually the dam's going to break.
Well, Mike Denbrock has Riley Leonard playing so much better right now in the pass game than earlier in the season. That's one of the things that shocked me. He's been running the football well the entire year. I just wonder, how much of that is because of the schedule these past few weeks, and does Lincoln Riley have one more in him? One more where he punches above his weight and you know what? Take that before the season ends.
Yeah, it's like we're not dead yet type of thing.
Because he has that capability.
He does.
And this team does too. All right, you said you wanted to do Miami?
Yeah, just really quickly, what do you think? I think Miami's going to get beat this weekend.
You think so?
I think Syracuse.
I've got a funny feeling about it too, playing Kyle McCord and this Syracuse team on the road. I just keep having PTSD of that Pitt game. Yeah. Remember when things got out of control early for Syracuse?
That's Kyle McCord's worst game by a month.
That I've ever seen him play.
Yeah. I will say I think either Syracuse wins this game in regulation or Miami wins it in overtime. I don't trust Miami's defense. And I know against Wake Forest, you can say what you want last week. They kind of studded up and figured it out. And I hope they have. I want to see Cam Ward in the playoff. I want to see that magic going against some of these other teams. There's just something about if this game was at home, I would feel a lot better about Miami. But going up there, playing on that turf, with some of the weapons that Syracuse has, it's been an unbelievable year for Fran Brown in that program. I don't know, man. I'm leaning towards Syracuse. I think they're one of the best dog bets, on the board. And I guess you're going to have to wait for locks, leans, and dogs tomorrow to see if I pick them.
Money line plus 300 right now. The line, Blaine, is plus 11. Remember, Duke's a good football team, man. Duke had Miami kind of on the ropes for, 2.5 quarters, 3 quarters, something like that, at least throughout the first half. It ended up being a 20-point blowout for Miami.
Well, that's how good Miami's offense is. And the thing we talk about when it comes to Miami is their defense. And especially in the back end, their secondary. Are they good enough to hold up against good teams? And right now, Kyle McCord is leading the ACC in passing yards.
Maybe the nation.
Yeah, I think the over-under in this game is 67.5, which the over will probably hit.
Fast track.
I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't think Miami and Cam Ward are going to lose this game. I think they have too much on the line and too much in front of them. And I know Cam Ward's already been playing phenomenal, but him getting left off that list for that award, he might play even better. So if I'm Syracuse, that was a little extra fire added to it. So I like Miami in this game.
All right, we're going to get to the chat in 1 second and then get to calls. But first, it's time. Everybody huddle up. David Cohn with a breakdown. God, I think I may enjoy this one a little bit more. Coney, let's play it.
Auburn fans, huddle up. Let's get an 11 personnel and go gun. Bronco left swap, H Cheetah, yellow 4 photo. This was a huge 63-yard touchdown for Auburn against Texas A&M. Let's go ahead and break it down. Auburn comes out in 11 personnel, so they got 1 running back and 1 tight end. We're going to keep both of those guys in the backfield in this Bronco left formation, and we're also going to lock them in pass pro. This gives us a full 7-man pass protection off of play action, which I'm going to call yellow yellow 4. What's one way to slow down that athletic Texas A&M front 7? Let's block them with 7. So that leaves us 3 wide receivers in the route. And I really want to highlight this cheetah motion before the snap by the H there. You see the Miami Dolphins doing a lot of this with Tyreek Hill. By snapping the ball while he's still in motion, it allows the X receiver on the outside to gain leverage on the cornerback. And that little bit of leverage is all Cam Coleman needs for this photo concept. All right, so what's photo here? The P stands for a post by number 1, and we've got an option hook route by number 2. This is a great complement to our Python and our Pittsburgh concepts double post, which we've broken down on Huddle Up. And ideally, we want to run all these plays against quarters coverage, that's cover 4, or quarter, half, cover 6, which is exactly what we're getting here. Watch how this hook route baits this free safety down, number 25, which creates a one-on-one matchup for Cam Coleman against that corner where he's already established inside leverage. From there, we just want to take that high so that we don't involve the backside strong safety, which almost happens here, but not quite. From there, this is a great ball by Peyton Thorne. This is a phenomenal quarters beater. This is a cover 6 beater, called at the right time, well executed, huge upset for Auburn. This is 11 personnel, gun, Bronco left, swap, H cheetah, yellow 4 photo.
You know, sometimes, just like in baseball where you got to tip your cap, that is a perfect call offensively, set up by the motion, as you pointed out. To me, the most impressive thing about that play, outside of the throw by Peyton Thorne, the play calling Cam Coleman, was the boundary safety getting over there and having a chance to affect
Shouldn't have been
play.
that close.
It's just, man, that's tough. You know, as a corner, when you get that motion and you got to switch responsibilities, right, with the interior defender, with the nickel there to the field, you're kind of, you always play inside leverage, right, when you're running quarters coverage as a corner, right? You're staying inside leverage because you don't want to get on the beat on the post like that, because if that safety does get occupied, you have no help. He had no help. The motion put him in an advantageous leverage situation. That's just, if you execute it, I mean, that's tough, dog.
And Peyton Thorne had the whole shot against the cover 2 to the boundary. But, you know, Blaine and I were talking about this earlier. Like, that free safety to the field, he shouldn't be getting that low since you have the nickel rerouting over the top before he gets to the flat. But I think what happened here is that all these defenses are so sensitive right now to that cheetah motion because they're watching people do it to get that guy open.
And get the inside guy with inside leverage open.
So I think a lot of people are saying, hey, if you see them snap the football while one of these guys is running in that cheetah motion, he's getting the ball most of the time. So go ahead and be more aggressive and come down. Just so happened this time they were trying to get over the top of you on the post.
And do not be shocked this week if you see some sort of different type of combination out of that same sort of short motion. We talked about eye candy at the beginning of the show when talking about Auburn, Alabama. That's exactly what it does. That thought that you just brought up is a very, very true thought that defensive guys think. We always say if you're motioning somebody, you're doing that for a reason, probably to get them the ball. If it's moving, they're getting the ball. Just like we say, if something's going away, something is coming back. So it was just a perfect call and a perfect draw up. But if you want great defense, all right, before we get to the chat and phone calls here, if you want a reliable defense, I'm talking about security, you need to check out our new sponsor over at Vanta. All right. So whether you're starting or scaling your company's security program, demonstrating top-notch security practices, and more importantly, establishing trust, that's one of the most important things that you can do. With Vanta, they automate compliance for ISO 27001, SOC 2, SOC 2, as some people call it, GDPR, and more, saving you time and money while helping you build customer trust. You can streamline security reviews by automating questionnaires and demonstrating your security posture with a customer-facing trust center. Basically, to put it simple, you won't give up inside leverage on the post and lose it. All powered by Vanta AI. Our audience also gets a special offer of $1,000 off Vanta at Vanta.com/booster. That's VANTA.com/booster. Get $1,000 off. I'm telling you, if you want to make sure that you're doing the right things, you're practicing the right things, and you are protecting yourself, check out our new friends over at Vanta. That's Vanta.com/booster. Check them out today. All right, let's get to the chat before we get to calls.
Let's go to $3 donation from the Dre Man. Good to see you in here, bro. He says, if you're Fran Brown, how do you approach this Miami offense?
You know, it's tough. That's why getting Damian Martinez, which was such a big coup for them, because we talk about Cam Ward, we talk about Restrepo, we talk about Young, all these other guys that they have, and they're incredible. You look at McCormick at tight end. Having that run game and that balance where you feel good about lining up on 3rd and 1, where you can run your play action on 2nd and 1, or even 3rd and 1 and feel fine about 4th and 1. If I'm facing Cam Ward, I've got two choices. Either we're just going to heat your ass up the whole game and make you get rid of the ball, which he can beat you doing that. We've seen that. Or do you lighten up the pressure and play coverage? Yep. And you got to mix things up. I don't want to speak in absolutes. I don't want people to think you just have to do one thing. But the hardest part about Miami is you can get them in 3rd and 12. You can get them in 3rd and 15. And they can still find a way to gut you. So if I'm Fran Brown, I think the answer is show a lot pre-snap, but be simplistic post-snap, right? Give Cam Ward a lot to think about, because if I'm thinking, it slows me down a little bit. There's not a lot of great answers here either. We talked about that, but Wink Martindale, what do you do against this Ohio State offense with that personnel? I think you do a little bit of everything, but you show it from the same thing and try and confuse him, give him multiple looks. Show you're bringing pressure, then bring pressure. Show you're bringing pressure from the same spot, drop out of the pressure. Show you're bringing pressure from the same stop, bring pressure from the opposite side of where you're showing. That's the only way I know. That's about the best advice I can give you, Dre, man.
All right, let's go to the Bleeding Orange. What's up, man? He says, if I'm Fran Brown and Kyle McCord, I'm actually running the ball a lot in this game to keep the ball out of that Miami hands offense. Jake, I agree with you. I think Syracuse wins this game by kicking a field goal late.
I don't know if I go away from what got me this successful season. I would rather die by Kyle McCord than live by hoping through somebody else. That doesn't mean Quinn Allen, some of these other guys aren't good. I'm not saying that, or that Syracuse has no run game. It's just, man, it's the last regular season game. You're playing a top 10 team in Miami. Kyle McCord is one of the biggest reasons they got you here. Hell, Fran Brown said that they should send Ohio State a bottle of champagne for sending Kyle McCord over there. I don't know about y'all, man. I'm living and dying by Kyle McCord. We're going to throw it till the motor wears off.
Let's go to the Crib 305. He says, Miami leads the nation in 3rd down conversion at 59%.
Just saying.
Ooh, that's good. Cam has played 60 games. Trust me, there ain't nothing he hasn't seen.
Yeah, again, but so what are you going to do? Just lay down? Just here, boys, come get it. Like, you got to have some sort of plan. There's no perfect plan against Cam Ward. Mm-hmm. Like, there really isn't. I just said he can kill you in 3rd and 1, and he can gut you in 3rd and 15. The part that I just would want to try to eliminate is him extending the plays by making a guy miss and keeping his eyes downfield. If you're going to beat me with the play design, man. If you're going to beat me because you called Poco and you hit it. Beat me because you called mesh and you hit it. Don't beat me because you had 8 seconds to run around, you made a guy miss, you threw a ball behind your back, you wrote a note to your grandmother, and then you threw it downfield to Restrepo and scored a touchdown. That's the only thing. But, all right, let's get to calls. We're going to get back to the chat here after bets.
All right, y'all, it's Rivalry Week. Let's get those feet chopping. We're going to start with Braden in Iowa. What's going on, Braden?
How you guys doing?
What's up, man?
What's up, man?
So I'm a Bama fan, and it's been heartbreaking to watch the last couple of weeks and our offense operate. So I was just wondering what you guys thought happened to the deep shot. Because at the beginning of the year, Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard were running deep. We could strike at any second. And since the LSU game where we could run all over them, last week it seemed like we just wanted to run into a wall and keep running into a brick wall like nothing was happening, while I see Ryan Williams running wide open down the side of the field. So I was just wondering if you guys think it's an offensive coordinator problem or if it's a Jalen Milroe not seeing him problem. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Look, I think it's a combination of things. But, Braden, I agree with you, man. And I think sometimes, because coaches are human beings, players are human beings, they listen to what people are saying when it comes to their weaknesses. And that's where they feel like they need to go to prove it. What did we hear at the beginning of the year? Man, Bama really can't run the ball. Jalen Milroe can't complete short passes or intermediate passes. That's what he's got to do to take the next step. But where was Alabama having success? Go look at the Wisconsin game. What did they do to Wisconsin? Bomb, bomb, bomb. And I guess it may be a perception thing. And I don't know if this is a Kalen DeBoer thing or a Nick Sheridan coming from Washington where Michael Penix threw it 800,000 times. And maybe to to beat the perception of softness. And this is Alabama, and we got this offensive line, and we're going to run the ball with these backs, and Jalen Milroe can make the short to intermediate passes. It almost feels like this Alabama team should have been a pass-to-run team with a heavy emphasis on vertical shots. Now, that doesn't mean you throw the vertical shot every time, because you're not going to be consistent that way. Maybe they were so worried about the lack of run game and the lack of ability to throw the short to intermediate pass that they went in it too much. Not that you don't go to it, but you were overcompensating. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Well, because I agree with what Braden just said.
Early in the season, there were some games where we thought, why isn't Ryan Williams getting the football more? Like, he's really good. I know he's 17 years old, but clearly he's identified that he can be a weapon at this level. And I think you saw Nick Sheridan make it a point of emphasis in the middle of the season to be getting him the football more. At times, maybe they were targeting him too much. That was in the middle of the year. And then throughout the end of the season here, we've seen them make a conscious effort to run Jalen Milroe more, which is something we've wanted to see for the past 2 years. So while it didn't work, it worked to perfection against LSU. It didn't work against Oklahoma, but at least you gave yourself a chance by running your best asset. I think you would have been kicking yourself a lot more if Jalen Milroe had no rushes in the game and you tried to drop him back like he's Drew Brees and then you didn't score anything against Oklahoma.
Is Jalen Milroe good enough to throw you to a win?
If, again, he's a rhythm
against
shooter.
who?
Yeah,
against
like
some teams.
Sometimes
you're Alabama against the best.
Like, well, I don't think there's a consistent yes or no. I think it's sometimes, and that's the scariest part. But then you add that with the lack of ability to be consistent running the ball, and it creates a problem, right? What's one way to alleviate that? Having two safeties that are scared to death that you're going to get beat deep. That opens up. Can't believe we're saying that about Alabama, and I think that's one of the culture problems, right? That you're hearing fans talk about. Why can't we line up and smush people anymore? That's what Alabama used to do. Remember what Nick Saban did? It wasn't, hey, bomb, bomb, bomb. It was downset Hut, Greg McElroy, hand the ball off. Downset Hut, A.J. McCarron, hand the ball off. Then we'll go play action when these studs down the field. It's just kind of reversed on its head. The game has changed. It's obviously evolved a little bit. But I think that is a problem, Braden. I don't think you're too far off the mark there.
Hey, Braden, before you go, what's your Iron Bowl prediction?
I don't think Auburn can go into Tuscaloosa and win a game, but I think it'll be closer than I'm going to like it to be, and it might be another last-second, fourth-quarter thriller that we have.
God, I don't know.
As long as it's not 4th and 1, I don't think they can handle it.
I don't like how you sound super logical and stuff.
Yeah. Braden, get out of here.
Hey, Braden, call in next week, brother. All right, let's go to Cole in Austin. What's up, Cole?
Hello?
Cole.
What's up, man?
Hey. It says Austin, but I spent a lot of my time in College Station, Texas.
Respect. He's Owen Wilson.
House divided?
Yeah, house divided. Well, I just want to say the T-SIPs always call us weird, but most of their student section can't decide whether they're a boy or a girl. So what do we need to do to beat those gay little communists?
Cole trying to win Caller of the Week on a Tuesday.
I'm assuming he is talking about, and I hate to, sorry, Texas fans. I'm assuming he's talking about Texas. Look, if you're A&M, I'm actually not as worried about A&M's defense against Texas's offense as I am about A&M's offense against this vaunted Texas defense. Look, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think what I'm interested to see is obviously Quinn's health. And it's not that Quinn's going to go out there and run the triple option or he's going to take off and scramble for 70 yards. It's how healthy is he moving in the pocket. So if I'm Mike Elko and I'm this Texas A&M offense and I'm Colin Klein, how much do I feel out where this Texas offense is early in the game from a play calling standpoint? If it's me, if I'm Colin Klein, the best way to defeat an elite defense, which is what Texas has, is with the quarterback run game to open up everything else. I don't think you can go in here and say, Marcel Reed, you got to throw for 350, bud. You either throw for 350 or we're not going to score.
Yeah.
I think Colin, again, you saw A&M last week, and I brought this up talking about Auburn going to Alabama, do a good job of mixing personnel groupings to get the defense in a personnel grouping that they feel good about. That's why having a quarterback that can run is huge, because I can manipulate the personnels and run it with my quarterback and get a hat on a hat. So whether it's nickel, whether it's dime, whether I want you to go rabbit, whether I want you to go heavy, I can figure out ways to get to my matchups. So to me, a lot of it, I think, is going to be quarterback run game. And don't be shocked at all if you see a ton of sprint out from Texas A&M in this game, especially arm side, which is to the right for Marcel Reed, on third and shorts, running their pick plays, things like that, to get him into a little bit of a rhythm and take away half the field that may cause some confusion if he's trying to read the thing like a radar screen, as opposed to saying, hey, this is your one read. If you don't like it, take off into the boundary. We'll see if we can get it. But it all starts and stops with a run game. That's what it's to me.
What's your prediction, Cole?
Oh, I hope we kick a last-second field goal and rip their hearts out.
You monster.
Look, Cole definitely chose violence. I just love the hate in this rivalry and that we get it back. I'm so excited and super jacked and tan about it.
Thanks for calling in, Cole.
Great call,
Appreciate it, man.
I can't.
Call in next week. All right, let's go to Charlie in Pennsylvania. What's going on, buddy?
Good afternoon, guys. Just wanted to chime in real quick about the game. Been watching it since the early 60s, and the rule has been, for most of those years, that the favored team didn't necessarily win.
No.
Now, it's only been in the last 15 years when Ohio State became dominant where that kind of changed. In the previous 13 years, Michigan won 11 out of 13. You probably don't remember Herb Street whining on game day in those days. Can we not talk about the last 10 years? Okay? so things flip. And I will tell you, they're going to want to tee off on Michigan's quarterback like they did to Rourke.
Mm-hmm.
I would start Orgy in this game.
Yeah.
And my game plan will run it down their throat because passing isn't the modality against this team if you're Michigan. You want to eat the clock up like Jake said. Orgy gives you that dangerous option and pass when you have to, but run the ball. Okay, if you go down running the ball, okay, that's your best shot. And I really feel they should have played Orgy more this year because it could have been our best foot forward. We don't have elite receivers. Our line was a rebuild. So when you categorically list your assets and your deficits, you say, we could win with a running quarterback because that covers a lot of the deficiencies. That's what's so great about Milroe. When he's on, he's unstoppable.
Yeah, because he can do both. When he's
What do you think?
Well,
Would you start Orgy?
here's what I thought. And I was thinking about this actually last night because I always try and put myself and actually got offered a coaching job last night in Division I.
When are you leaving?
Turned it down. No, I'm staying here, buddy. I ain't got to rely on an 18-year-old to make sure he's reading Q to 2 out of quarters coverage. Here, I had this thought. Tell me what you think about this, Charlie. If I'm Michigan, do I have a package where I put Orgy and Davis Warren on the field?
Yes. And Donovan Edwards and Khalil Mullins.
So what I mean by that is not that Davis Warren lines up at wide receiver. I mean lining them both up, kind of offset, and saying, you know what? I want Jim Knowles to have the thought that we may still throw it if I snap this thing to Davis Warren, because Orgy can go run a wheel route. Hell, his last name's Orgy. It means he can do a lot of things at once. So when you have Davis Warren out there, even if you snap the ball to Orgy and you run power, and you have Davis Warren run some sort of what we used to call swipe motion, right, or some sort of pitch relationship motion away from it, a player still has to go over there. I think this might be the game to do. Not saying you do it every play, but have a package where
it just reminds me of the water boy when the coach.
I'm not asking him.
Like, we're going to pass it. No,
we need everything.
He's going to pretend to fake. He's going to pretend to fake.
He's going to pretend to fake.
I don't know,
Charlie.
I don't know. Look, I'm grasping for sure. It's a 21-point spread.
I like that strategy better. I would not start Alex Orgy in this game. And if you look at it, he's had the most success running the football when he's come in on packages, right? Because Davis Warren has had a little bit, say what you will, had some success through the air when Alex Orgy was just the starter for the complete game. They did win some of those games in the early part of the season, but I thought that he wasn't picking up enough yards on the ground to justify
it wasn't beneficial.
I like the tandem. Usually I'm not a big quarterback platoon guy, but in this situation, I think that it could work.
I don't know why, but every time we say the word Alex Orgy, I think of RG3 eating that croissant.
Hey, David?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, because I think they're going to want to tee off on Michigan. You saw what they did to Rourke
of course.
in Indiana.
Yeah.
So you run right at them. You run right. I played high school ball. We ran a belly and a belly option.
There you go.
And we could beat the behemoth teams Because
What
You're talking
happens?
about trap,
Like, what
counter
happens
trap.
when you get down 14?
Yeah, well, then it's...
Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie. Hey, great call, buddy.
Thanks for calling. I'll leave you with this. As on the Kirk Herbstreit point, I directed Kirk Herbstreit in several Coca-Cola commercials back in the day. And
I'm not going to say that.
we would be talking about the rivalry in the green room or whatever. He has the utmost respect for the Michigan and Ohio game. So much so, that was at a time when Michigan just couldn't figure out a way.
I would love to.
He's like, look, I want Michigan to keep this rivalry. Michigan has to win some of these games to be able to keep it the greatest rivalry in sports. I haven't seen him the last 3 years. I'd love to pick his brain now, though.
Boy, he picked a good time not to see you.
Jacob in Georgia, what's on your mind today, man?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
What's up, dude?
Hey, man. Calling from Statesboro, Georgia. This is the Sauce King in the chat. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
King.
All right. I got 3 quick comments and 1 question for y'all. First off, I agree with Jake and David. Cranberry sauce sucks.
Yes.
Sorry, Blaine.
So good.
I can't wait to root against y'all Saturday.
Against App State? How dare you?
Secondly, Jake, I appreciate the follow on Twitter, man.
Of course.
I was actually shocked by it, but I appreciate that.
Don't worry, I'm going to unfollow you right after the show now.
I'm about to give you a follow.
I'm just kidding.
Thirdly, against Georgia, my question would be, because I'm a Dog fan first, even though I live here in Statesboro, I love the Eagles, but I'm a Dog fan first. Is it possible that sorry, I almost called him Stetson. Carson Beck is coming back for a 6th season? Because I had a conversation with my friend the other day, and he believes that Carson Beck could return in the sense that his draft pick could go higher next season rather than go like a 2nd or 3rd round this season and go to somebody like the Giants or Las Vegas that need a quarterback right now.
Yeah, well, back in the day, I would tell you there's no shot in hell, but considering the guy drives a Lambo, is dating a Cavender twin, and has an NIL deal with a private jet company, I'm not willing to rule anything out. But his draft stock has fallen a lot. Here's my question. Do y'all want him back?
I don't personally want him back.
I wonder what percentage of Georgia fans don't want him back, because I think that's crazy.
That's an interesting question.
In our fantasy football league, it's a 2 versus 1. Me and another guy don't want him back, and my other buddy of mine, he does want him back. So it's like he throws a pretty ball. It's great, yeah, whatever. I mean, but I don't think he has performed well. I think the Lambo got to his head too much. The money got to his head too much is what I think. And I think that he just needs to go on and go be in the NFL. And my final comment, so I can finish out here real quick, is y'all make a good point about Alabama and DeBoer. In the chat I was talking about, we have 2 Alabama fans. They don't like DeBoer at all whatsoever. They agree that the standard is, we don't care what DeBoer had when he came from Washington or wherever the heck he came from. We want him to be elite now, and we don't care about his win-loss record from Washington.
Well, that's why when everybody, when I came out and said, there's a saying in coaching, you can sit here and beat your chest and try and be Alexander the Great and all this type of stuff and say, it doesn't matter who coached here before. I believe in myself. So many people come out and say that. But that's fine if you want to live in rainbow land. Like, we're talking about making like a decision for yourself. You never want to be the guy that follows the guy. You want to be the guy that follows the guy that followed the guy. Because unless Kalen DeBoer went undefeated this year and won the national championship, there were still going to be Alabama fans that thought he was a bad hire or thought that he couldn't do it. Like, that was my whole point. I mean, it'd be easier for me to sit here and be like, I'm a man, just turn this into a Mulan musical. Like, but it's a tough gig. Like, kudos to you for taking it. I think it was the dumbest decision you could have possibly made.
There's no way you could turn that down, though, right? If you're the coach at Washington and Alabama called,
I'm staying at Washington. Are you kidding me?
I don't know about that.
You want Jake? If Alabama called
after Nick Saban
and said, "Do you want to be the emperor?" you would say no.
Well, you mean after the greatest emperor? I don't want to be the emperor that follows Augustus, dog.
Well, you may have that in the back of your head, like, man, this is going to be a tough
But I'm sitting
gig,
here at Washington. I
job.
just made the national championship game, and I'm a hero at Washington. And Washington's a big-time place.
What's big?
In a power conference. But you're not adding context to it. Look who you're following. If it was Mike Shula and they called me and said, hey, Jake, you want to come be the coach of Alabama? And guess what? If you just do good, they'll love you. I'll take that in a second. But that's not what happened. You basically had the greatest college football coach ever. How are you supposed to follow that up?
The greatest recruiter in college football ever, the greatest head coach, gamesmanship, schematically, had more control than anybody in college football. This was always not going to be great. So why would you? I'm a bird in the hand is better than one in the bush. Again, you can sit here and beat your chest because it wasn't you making that decision. If it was me, I am not going to follow Nick Saban.
So you're saying is they should have given me $10 million for a gap year before they got their guy.
What's a buyout, David?
$10 million for a gap year?
Oh, my God. I'd have went in and tanked the whole
thing. You know what? We might have
thing.
messed around and made the college football playoff.
Yeah, that's probably right. You probably would have
It just
lost
feels like
the
Jake
game.
doesn't want to go to the SEC championship to make the playoffs.
No, I just don't want to follow. I don't want to follow Willy Wonka taking over the chocolate factory, dog.
Well, you're going to have to because he's giving that thing
Charlie
up.
from Pennsylvania
Did you get your
already
golden
called
ticket
in.
or not, you know?
Great call, man.
I was wondering if he was from
Gotta. All right, let's go to Tennyson in Texas. Big one in the Lone Star State this weekend,
he's
brother.
been nervous. How nervous are you, Tennyson? Tell me, 1 to 10.
My battered Aggie syndrome is off the scale.
Golly.
There's not even a number I can give you.
I bet y'all got vertigo.
You can't just put a game like this where you control everything and you can go to the playoff potential, you can go to your conference championship, you can halt the momentum that Texas had going into the conference, and the only thing that you have to do is beat your hated rival who's got a better roster than you, better quarterback than you, at least for right now, and all of the momentum when you're coming off of one of the most heartbreaking losses to a team that you shouldn't have lost to.
Well, Tennyson, if you're
I'm beside myself.
If you're an exorcist, what a better way to exorcise the demons than just straight to the devil. I don't want any of your soldiers. I don't want any of the minions. Give me Lucifer, dog. If you're going to go through it, if you're going to beat this whole 8-4, never playing the SEC championship, never getting the college football playoff, if you're going to beat it, why not go through Texas, man? Why not go through Texas?
You're exactly right, which is why it makes it so much worse. Because if we lose this game, then for the next decade or 2 decades or whatever it is, Texas is going to say, you guys had a 14-year head start. All of the recruiting, all of the money, all of the SEC advantages. We came in year one and did what you guys swore up and down you guys were going to do for the last decade. That's how bad it could get.
But how good could it be? How great could it be? Right? It's like stunting on your ex. Yeah, man, look, you're working a job, not making a lot of money. She left you. Go hang out with the yoga instructor, right? But then all of a sudden, you go to the University of Phoenix.
Boom.
You take those night classes. Now all of a sudden you're riding around in one of those Chevrolet Cruises feeling good about yourself with the girl that works at the library that's super underrated hot. I don't know. It just...
Dude, I heard a crazy stat. I saw it on Twitter. Is it true the last 4 games
that one got
A&M has had, the other team hasn't been called for holding?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yes, it's worse than that. So
it's worse than that. Those are the facts, but it's worse than that.
It's worse than that.
It's the last 30 quarters of football, not including the overtime, not including the overtimes against Auburn. Our defensive line has not gotten a single holding call to go their way. And if you think that's gonna change against Texas,
it has to.
Listen,
because I tell you right now, Auburn held.
I don't. Yeah, look.
They're not going to give us those calls.
I'm a defensive guy. All right. So if anybody knows about holding that goes on, I could be willing to bet you any amount of money I have. Somebody got held during those 30 quarters, dog. Somebody got held. But Tennessee, give us a score. Give us a score.
They absolutely did. I'm just saying that they won't. I think if we're able to control the line of scrimmage, which I think our defense against their offensive line has the capability of doing, and we run the ball, we're not going to be able to get into a slugfest with them where we throw the ball over the yard against Quinn. It's not going to happen. I think if we can get it to something like 27-21, 30-24, somewhere around there, where we're able to just something like that. It's
God, if y'all put up 30
game where we're not. We're not going to have. I'm saying if we run the ball, we'll be able to move the ball on the ground against them. I think.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Where we score maybe once a quarter, something like that. If we can do a shootout, it's not going to go good.
Yeah, it just sucks when it turns out the final
Get those guys in overalls out there and get to work, man.
It's just, it's like your dad beats you in basketball in the driveway your whole life until that one time.
Yeah, it's like your older brother, right?
One time.
Thank y'all for calling in.
Great calls, guys. Great calls.
Right, can I get to the chat? I don't know why I'm taking this pen with me.
Congrats to Jake, too, for actually getting up after the calls in. You're growing up, man. You're growing up. We're all proud of you.
We giving notes
live
on the show?
Legal note.
Yeah, I got a legal note for you. We'll go to HR after this. Anyways, tonight, I'm going college basketball because I've been hot, and I probably just jinxed it. I'm going unders. All right, give me Memphis, Michigan State, second game, right, in as many days. A little bit tired. Legs are a little bit heavy. Kurt Signetti. Give me the under 153.5 at -112. Then Houston and Bama. Houston plays defense, buddy. All right, I know Bama plays offense really well, but give me the under in this one at 149.5 -108. 2-0 last night. Feeling real great about it. Let's make some money.
Man, great game last night by the Harbaugh brothers, but I did not hit either one of my bets. I'm going some action tonight. Let's go Buffalo -23.5, -115 on the odds. Why is that, Blaine?
Because Kent State's terrible.
There you go. And then I'm going to take
plays credit card bills.
And then I'm going to take Toledo.
Allegedly.
Toledo -6.5, -148.
All right. It's great to see Derrick Henry get like 30 carries and not score a touchdown. And then
You're only down 10.
Then the backup gets in and runs it 3 times and breaks a 6-yard touchdown. All right. You know what I'm doing today? I'm betting against Kent State, and you probably should too. Give me Buffalo -23.5, -114. And give me Akron +8.5 at home against Toledo. That's -1.
All right, Ace, what do you got? He's going to go UConn bounce back game tonight, -15, -112. Then Bama +4, shocker there at -108. Going to be a great game against Houston. Again, I tell you, man, there's some great, look, we got college football, we got college basketball, we got Thanksgiving. I'm just glad to be alive, man.
Heck of a week.
Let's get these donations. All right, if you donated today, guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate it on this side. Let's go to $10 donation from Jeremy. Appreciate it, Jeremy. Cone. Don't forget, after Ohio State wins by more than 7 in the game, you'll be $50 poorer and have to refer to the Buckeyes as the Ohio State bet date, 8/23/24. End of the show if you need a reminder.
I bet $50?
Yeah,
what he
said? I heard on the 23rd.
Smooth 5-0, dude.
Yeah, my boy had the date.
I'm going to have to hear it back with my own ears.
$5 donation from Tim. Appreciate it, Tim. More people watch Ohio State versus Michigan than the Iron Bowl. It's the game. Michigan versus Ohio State is bigger than the Iron Bowl. Also, Badger basketball equals elite.
Look, Tim, you have your right to your opinion. You don't have the right to make up facts.
Why don't you pay attention? You're in school. All right, why don't you pay attention to what's going on?
Everything was great till the Wisconsin point.
Let's go to a $5 donation from the Hut. Appreciate it. The Iron Bowl has lost some luster, but USC can root Notre Dame season in their battle for the jeweled Shalala this weekend. Fight on.
Is Notre Dame
felt right? Felt right. Okay, I'm probably off. But
is Notre Dame out of the playoff if they lose?
No.
You don't think so?
Not now with all the chaos.
Yeah, that's true.
$2 donation from another one from Tim. As North Carolina reach out to Nate Oates, trust me, I'm getting in touch with my people. They're getting in touch with his people. We're going to get it done. $5 donation from TJ. Appreciate it, man. Cone, Ohio is not locked into the championship game. When Michigan pulls the upset, that would give Ohio 2 conference losses.
That's right.
Little trouble there. Let's go to a $5 donation from James. Appreciate it, James. I'm just going to say this, regardless of Auburn wins a tourney, they're the best team in the country, and that is it. $5 donation from 808 JM. Aloha, gents. Been busy. Maui Invitational, baby. Am I wrong to get the finals tickets already? Hate to be disappointed again. Hashtag War Damn Eagle.
No, you're not. Get them. It's going to be a great game either way. There's too many good teams.
Let's go to a $10 donation from Will Dawson. What's up, Will? As a former Longhorn converted to a born-again Aggie, I don't understand the little brother thing. Since A&M was transitioning out of being a service academy, it has been pretty much even. Huge fan. Love the show.
I just think it's more of what the school that's named after the state. That's just the way I go about it. Maybe that's my experience.
$2 donation from the Rocky Mountain Buckeye. A lot of Rocky Mountains in here. As Buckeyes, we thank Fran Brown for taking Cal McCord. Trust me, we don't want him. $5 donation from JD. Jake, I don't wish evil on people, but I hope Auburn beats Alabama so bad Reed makes you sleep on the couch for a week and tells you that your breath stink.
Well, the good part about that is I'll probably do something to have to sleep on the couch the whole week anyway, so it's really different.
$10 donation from Jan. Appreciate it. If LeBron is a GOAT, then flat Earth is real. I told you, Blaine, that Thorne was going to ball out last Saturday.
We don't talk NBA.
And you called me crazy in your head. Brother, I picked Auburn to win the game.
He did.
Yes, I don't know where that correlation is at all. $5 donation from the Mountain Man Mike. What's up, dude? Says, Cone, I think Michigan actually pulls the upset in this game. They lean on Ohio State in their run game, and this is finally the game. Will Howard makes a couple mistakes.
Yeah, that could be the way it plays out. And if that happens, then the only way for the Buckeyes to make the Big Ten championship game is if Indiana loses to Purdue and Penn State loses to Maryland.
Look, here, if Ryan Day loses this game to Michigan, they're going to bring the guillotine back, dog. They'll slice his head off in the middle of the square.
$5 donation from Jimmy Timmy. What's up, man? He says, what are y'all's thoughts on Mike Bobo to North Carolina?
As head coach?
Head coach.
I don't think they'd hire Mike Bobo. I think a lot of Georgia fans hope they do, and I think that there's some unwarranted hate for Mike Bobo. I just can't get over the fact that your handle's name is Jimmy Timmy.
$2 donation from Johnny Surf Dog. He says, Texas could play UGA 3 times, and Bobo to UNC is perfect.
I mean, nothing shocks me nowadays. The 3 times thing could happen. I mean, it really could.
$5 donation, last donation of the day. David, appreciate it, David. Did you guys see FSU smash the rock against a 1-11 FCS team? It's getting to be pretty pathetic over there.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we're getting hyped up, and look, I got a buddy of mine who was a groom at my wedding that played at Charleston Southern. Got a lot of respect for Charleston Southern, but I would just kind of be like, "Hey guys, good job. Here's your Capri Sun and orange slice." And
Florida minus 13.5. Put the win on it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to this poll. What is the biggest rivalry in college football? Ohio State versus Michigan, Auburn versus Alabama, or Danny Cannell versus the SEC?
Danny Cannell versus the SEC.
God, I want to
40%.
I'm going to say 42%.
Ohio State versus Michigan, 33%. Danny Cannell versus the SEC, 33%. Auburn versus Alabama, 34%.
Wow. I don't think we've had
God, Danny Cannell's coming out of the woodwork. All right, we appreciate you guys. Got a great show for you tomorrow as well. We're not going to be honored Thanksgiving, but we got Josh Pate coming on Friday. You don't want to miss that one. And like the chances of me not being super duper excited about attacking this turkey and watching all the sports, I'm going to catch it today. We're going. How about that?
The sauce wasn't for
Cranberry sauce sucks.
the hate against cranberry sauce on that.